99% of attorneys, from my experience, do not answer their phone even on the weekends, let alone early in the morning. And a lot of people have a lot of fear. Let's say they just got served with a lawsuit. They're terrified. Or I've coached women that aren't sure if they want to get a divorce or not, and are they ready? So it's not just here's a phone number. It's me really being there for them from the start of their case to the end of their case.
It's The Journey with drug and alcohol attorney Mark G. Astor.
Welcome to The Journey with Mark Astor. I'm your host, Mark Astor. I've spent a lot of years sitting across the table from people during some of the most challenging moments of their lives. As an attorney, an advocate, and as someone who understands that the road isn't always straight. What I've learned is that success, recovery, and growth rarely look the way we expect them to. There are detours, hard conversations, and moments that change everything. On this podcast, I talk with people who are willing to be honest about their journey, what worked, what didn't, and what they wish they knew sooner. So in this show, I am so excited. I have the one and only, the amazing Blanca Perper. She's an attorney, a brilliant attorney. She's an entrepreneur. She's got this amazing podcast show that I was able to guest on, where she runs a show that's in a real studio and people call in. Her dad was the late Dr. Joshua Perper, who was the Broward County medical examiner. And if you remember back to the days of the Anna Nicole Smith case, that's her dad. And we also have a mutual friend in the retired Judge Larry Seidlin, who was the judge who presided over that case. And it turns out that Blanca and I have both known Judge Larry for many years, and he's a really great guy. Blanca was also the victim of a financial crime that ended up costing her 3 years of her Florida bar license. And she took what I think for me would have been just a terrible gut punch, and she really flipped her life around and created this amazing show and podcast. And I think that's what makes Blanca just so amazing. So she's tough as nails. She's got that New York toughness about her. And I'm so excited to have her on. I've just become such a fan and I have such respect for her. So Blanca, I'm so happy you're here, finally.
Thank you, Mark. I'm so excited to be here.
So, okay, before we get into all of the really juicy stuff in terms of the podcast and your show and all that stuff, right now you are a practicing lawyer and have been for how many years?
28 years.
Okay, I think where'd you go to law school? Was it Nova, same place as me?
I went to Capital University in Columbus, Ohio, and NYU undergrad. That's where I get my Brooklyn accent from.
I did my undergrad at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. So who knew you were a Buckeye? I didn't know that about you.
That's right.
So for the first few years of being a lawyer, what kind of law did you practice?
I started off as a public defender. They threw me a jury trial my second day on the job. I kid you not. They said there's a jury. And so I got to do 30 jury trials as a public defender. That's where I got my start.
And where was that? Which county were you in? So you were a PD in Broward when I was prosecutor in Palm Beach. Wow. So our careers took somewhat parallel paths. So how long did you work for the public defender's office?
3 years.
Okay. Did you enjoy that?
Oh my goodness. What a wonderful place to start a legal career. To be able to try jury trials, that alone is just a life-changing experience, which really actually helped me become the public speaker that I am today, helped me read people, helped me learn how to talk to a jury, how to talk to a judge, being in court every single day, dealing with members of the public every single day, the defendants and their families. I would say it was really just a miracle to be able to start there. Amazing experience.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't know about you, but I did not. And I was just talking to my last guest, who was also a lawyer, and we both, one of the things we had in common was that neither one of us really had a passion for the law, but we're like, okay, maybe we should just go to law school, and we did. And I didn't really develop a passion for the law and for being a lawyer until I interned in 1993 with the state attorney's office, and like you, I got to try a bunch of cases and I said, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. Now I get it. Now all of the stuff I've learned, right, criminal procedure and evidence and trial advocacy, that now it starts to make sense because I can really use it. Before I was like, okay, this sounds like a bunch of pie in the sky. What does this have to do with me passing the bar exam? And then I got it. And like you, I didn't realize speaking to all of those juries, when you do a jury trial and then getting up in front of an audience, it's really the same thing. It just might be, it's just a bigger jury, right? But it's still public speaking.
Mhm.
And I was a very shy kid and I was really uncomfortable in the courtroom. But when you get past that and I used to be able to feel a jury. I could feel them. And a lot of the time when I was picking a jury, I could almost pick the foreperson too. I knew who it was going to be. And that's something you either have or you haven't. So I certainly can understand that. But I want to know something. What caused you to go to law school? Because your dad was a doctor. So
My dad was a doctor and a lawyer and also had a Master of Science. He had three professional degrees. And so my parents, being Romanian immigrants, basically laid down the law, which was you have to be a doctor or a lawyer. We literally were not given a choice. There was no other career. So I told my parents, I can't take the sight of blood. I can't be in a hospital. And I'm not really great at math or science. So I'm going to go do the law thing.
and did you enjoy law school?
I love academics. I'm a great student. I love law school. I love learning. To me, that law school was like a vacation. I was in the library. I mean, yes, it's a lot of hard work, but honestly, and my parents supported me financially. So I had the luxury of being a full time student. So I loved it. I made a lot of friends. I lived in an amazing apartment that my mother just got me the most amazing place to live in. Life was good in law school. I loved it.
So you spent 3 years with the public defender's office, and then what? Where did you go from there?
As you may have gathered by this point in time, I was very close to my parents. And so my mother called me up and she said, Blanquitza, that's what they would call me. If you take the bar in Florida, we'll buy you a convertible. So they basically bribed
I
me,
love your
God
parents
bless them.
already.
And they're like, you can live with us too. I'm like, no, I'm not living with you, but I will take the bar in Florida because my dream was to always have a convertible. And I drive one to this day. That's my favorite car. So, yeah, I came down to Florida and have never left ever since.
Okay. So after you left the public defender's office, presumably you went into private practice. Is that right?
Yes, after leaving the public defender's office, I went into civil practice. I worked with Siegfried Delatore in Miami doing foreclosure and condo law. I did some foreclosure litigation with Shapiro and Fishman, which was really interesting work. And then I became senior counsel with Aquin Loan Servicing, which is a publicly traded company. And that was a life changing chapter in my career because then I was able to manage almost 5,000 attorneys nationwide, design new processes and procedures. And that's really when I went to the next level as an attorney. That was a really extraordinary opportunity working with Aquin. And they were getting like 20,000 emails a month. And that led to me developing my own patented email system. So it was a very interesting work. To be in the corporate world as a corporate attorney was tremendously enjoyable.
It was. I think when I was prosecuting, my state attorney, Barry Krischer, who's long since retired, used to say that we were the biggest law firm in Palm Beach County. But I think the thing I really enjoyed was the fact I had autonomy. We had certain office policies, right? For instance, on a sale of cocaine, if you're at arraignment, it's 90 days in jail. We don't offer probation on sale, right? And Barry used to say two rules in the office: don't violate office policy. And if you speak to the press, don't make a fool of yourself because then you make a fool of me. Other than that, they really allowed us to develop our own skill set. And I think for me, that was tremendous. I got to really figure out what worked for me, and I became a better lawyer as a result. And I always said, I don't know if I could ever work in a structured environment like that where I was so restricted. But it sounds to me like that really worked for you. And maybe you weren't restricted. I never envisioned myself because I had college friends I went to college with. They went to work for big law firms in New York and Chicago, and they were on the partnership track and working gazillions of hours. And I'm like, that sounds pretty boring. I'd rather just be in the courtroom. I don't mind working the hours, but I like trying cases. I'm not one to sit there and propound interrogatories or do depots. That just for me was boring.
I brought my personality into the corporate environment in a variety of ways. Number one is I designed a lot of processes and procedures. At the time I joined, they had no intake procedure, and I created that. And I was given the freedom to design processes for this publicly multi-million dollar company, their closing process, their national real estate documentation. And I saved them quite a lot of money in legal fees because I centralized all their legal documentation, organized their systems, and worked with some really wonderful people. So I also got to travel to India for 3 weeks because 300 people that worked for me were in India. So I got to travel the world a little bit, and I got to be creative with process, and I enjoyed that.
Okay, I know that at some point things really went south for you, that you were the victim of a financial crime, which caused the Florida bar to get involved. And having had the Florida bar involved in my career a number of times, that is a very unpleasant and can be a very expensive experience. So maybe you could shed some light on that for us.
I was the victim of a financial crime, the details of which are not important. But what is important are the laws of life that I applied to react to it, to respond to it. So, number one is even though I had obviously no involvement in the taking of money from my trust account, I was an innocent victim. I did immediately replace the money. I immediately reported it to the Florida bar, and I spent almost $1 million to get my license reinstated. It took me 3 years to prove my innocence, to prove from a financial firm that I had never had any role in it. My reputation was very important to me. And I made the investment to protect my reputation and to protect my license. My license to practice law is my most valuable financial asset. And it meant a lot. And however, during the 3 year period that I was fighting for my life and my license, I was not allowed to practice law. Currently, I'm a lawyer again, obviously, but for 3 years, I was not. So I asked myself the question, what are you going to do now? How are you going to make your money? How are you going to make a living? And I decided that I was going to do something that was going to make me happy, that was going to fulfill me. Yes, I did enjoy law, but what did I really want to do that gave me more joy even than the practice of law? And the other passion that I have is interviewing people. And so I set the vision to become a famous talk show host and to strive for that vision and that dream. And I created the Laws of Life platform and started to interview entrepreneurs, actors, celebrities, musicians, and build a mission of connecting the world through media and entertainment so that we can all win. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you must have a network around you. It's impossible to be successful as an entrepreneur without a connection community. And so that's what I've been building since 2019.
I love it. And I came on to be a guest on your show, and you have this amazing studio.
Thank
And,
you.
and I will tell you, for people who are going to watch this podcast, if you have not seen Blanca's show, I would describe you as dynamic. I'm not sure if that's enough of a compliment, but Blanca is dynamic. And I bet you must be spectacular in the courtroom too, because you have that magnetism, that personality, and that radiant smile and an energy. I've never seen a show like that. It's really spectacular. You should be on TV.
That's my dream. Let's
Yeah, you
go.
should. Blanca's dynamic. So the show has been going now for what, 6, 7 years?
Yeah, we're now in year 7 of creating the dream. Yes. But every day we're living it and loving it. And every Tuesday night we have the talk show both on Zoom and in studio at 7 p.m. And the whole world is invited. So if you're listening to this podcast with the amazing Mark Astor, please know that you can join the Tuesday talk show at 7 p.m. on Zoom or live in our studio.
So you do your show live.
Yeah, we also do it. We also do it in the studio. Yes.
So when it's happening, it's really happening, because obviously this, we record this and then we put it out a little bit later. But yours is, when Blanca says it's live, it's happening. So if it's happened, there's no editing, right? Because it's happening. right there and
We do a live show, and then we also do a recorded. We release a lot of clips. We live in a world of clip farming now, and it's a great way to get a lot of exposure on your brand. And people love clips because then they want to go and watch the replay. But we stream it, we go live, we post it, we clip it, and we derive and extricate many laws of life or philosophies of living our best life from the conversations that we have in the room. So it's not a talk show, it's really a connection engine, because the live audience that's in the studio, they get to know each other and talk about their business. The Zoom audience, they talk, and believe it or not, the Zoom audience and the live audience become friends. There are people that have been in my Zoom for the last 7 years that have never met in person and feel like they've known each other a lifetime just by coming into the show. It's really cool.
yeah, I think one of the things that was really cool was when I was in the studio live, but then we had somebody else on Zoom. And actually, if my recollection is that we were talking about the whole marijuana issue, and I was talking about, I wouldn't say my opposition, but my concern for the legalization of marijuana. And the gentleman who was on Zoom was somebody who has marijuana products. And so we had this, not just an interesting dialogue, but frankly was very respectful, right? Because I put a lot of this stuff out on social media and I get a lot of flack. People are really bent out of shape when I say, oh, we got to regulate this. They're like, oh, you're telling me how to live my life. I'm like, no, I'm just telling you what I'm seeing, what I'm dealing with. And I thought that the conversation was respectful. And there were some things that we actually agreed on. But what was really cool was that you had people like calling in or messaging in as the show was going on. That was a very neat thing. And I really enjoyed that because you get to answer those questions as it's happening.
Exactly. It's all about interactive dialoguing, is what I continually strive to build the Zoom audience, to build the live audience, where people can debate in a respectful way all these various issues. And I think it makes the conversation more fun when more people have a voice inside of it.
Yeah. How did you come up with the name Laws of Life?
When I got the vision that I wanted to become a famous talk show host, I really brainstormed and I just kept thinking, and my dad was a big part of it because I knew I wanted something with philosophy, because my father was always, he was a very wise man. He'd written over 500 articles and many books, and I knew I wanted a lot of quotes flowing through the movement, and I knew I wanted to tie it to my lawyer profile, and I wanted it to be philosophy of life. And I just literally, I think for 3 days, kept writing down ideas in a notebook. What would I call it? What would I call it? And then finally it came to me, and it popped out of my mind just like that.
So you practice in law, right? And what kind of cases are
Yes.
you taking?
Right now, my model is that I'm a concierge attorney, and I run my law firm in a very specialized niche way where I'll give you an example. Last week, I had a client that they were served with a demand letter threatening to sue them for 200,000. So what I do is I analyze the case with the client at no charge. I assess whether they have a viable claim. I triage their case. Then I connect them to 2 to 3 attorneys that are the right fit for their case, interview those attorneys with them, and then act as secondary strategy counsel throughout the case. And the primary counsel that is referred is the primary counsel, and I build the legal team and help guide the progression of the case. So that's how I serve as a concierge strategy attorney.
Okay. So on average, how many clients are you working with at any one time?
I usually, because I'm not handling the day to day of the case, I'm not handling the courtroom appearances, I'm not filing the motions, I'm not doing the research. I'm just an oversight strategist. I would say 10 to 12 per week.
Great. Okay. That's so you are a really, because sometimes clients will call us about something that's unrelated, completely unrelated to what we do, and part of the problem is they just can't find the right lawyer. Look, they can go to Google as well as I can, but they're not looking for the Google lawyer. They're looking for somebody who says, Okay, Mark, is there, like, for instance, they get arrested. If it was your family member, who would you call? I'm going to call this lawyer or I'm going to call that lawyer, right? So having somebody like you that can say, look, I've got the right lawyer that I would send my own family member to. This is who you need to speak to. I think is gold, just gold.
Absolutely. And I'm also available 7 days a week. So that means on Sunday morning at 8 a.m., when someone's friend or family is in a car accident, I'm gonna help that. 99% of attorneys, from my experience, do not answer their phone even on the weekends, let alone early in the morning. And a lot of people have a lot of fear. Let's say they just got served with a lawsuit, they're terrified. Or I've coached women that aren't sure if they want to get a divorce or not, and are they ready. So it's not just here's a phone number, it's me really being there for them from the start of their case to the end of their case. The first phase is deciding who the right attorney is, but also helping them understand some people don't have a case. So, because some people say the car dealership screwed me for $3,000, it doesn't make any sense to sue on a case with that low of a value. So, there's also a lot of financial conversations, helping them weigh the pros and cons. Does it make sense for them to file a suit? Does it not? And really taking the time and the patience and the compassion to guide them. And I think that's what distinguishes me from any other concierge attorney.
On your show, The Laws of Life, are there any people that you say, oh, that was an amazing guest? What kinds of guests stick out to you? Anybody that we would know?
So, one of my principles or my laws of life is that everyone is part of the club, okay? Because I'm really big on inclusion, and everyone has a space and a place to shine on the Laws of Life platform. So, on our new Laws of Life podcast, we interviewed a woman by the name of Tan Mom, who used to be on the Howard Stern show. And Tan Mom has a lot of scarring on her
I remember.
face.
I
What's that?
remember Tanya. Yeah, she
That's
was very tanned.
yeah. And a lot of people, because of she literally has really bad scarring from all the sun tanning. And a lot of people, they insulted her, they offended her. It sparked a lot of conversation. And here's the thing, guys, we are alive, okay? We are alive and we are blessed to be alive. And frankly, it really doesn't matter what anybody looks like. What matters is, do they have a good heart? Are they doing good things in the world? So it just reminds people like everybody has a law of life inside of them from their experience. We had Charleston White, who's a massive YouTube influencer on our show. That was our highest rated show. And Charleston and I come from completely different worlds. Charleston basically doesn't have a lot of laws of life. His law of life is live free. He's really a rebel. And but what Charleston taught us was how to look at a different point of view that's not quite as serious, but more fun, more light spirited, more how to look at different points of view. We've had just so many different people on our show. I've interviewed people that are homeless, and I've interviewed members of the royal family. So everyone is royal in my book, and everybody belongs and has a space to shine. So it's been a lot of fun. But I would say those are two of the biggest interviews that we've done, Charleston and Tan Mom, and also King Yahweh has been a big part. King Yahweh is a king in two different provinces in Africa. And we invited him to our royal luncheon. And he is an incredible guest on the show. And he demonstrates elegance, and he's a very kind man and sets a really beautiful example for the world of what a royal should and look like. And then we've had a lot of regular people like Mark Siegel with QPT CBD. He's never missed a show in 7 years. 7 years. So we have a lot of regular supporters that also come in and support the show. And we've become a family, and it's really it's exciting. It never gets boring.
I wrote down here that you've interviewed over 4,000 people. Is that right?
Hmm.
That is a lot of guests.
The reason I was able to do that is I also produced shows for other people, and they would bring in guests. So we did 2 years of episodes on the laws of Vision with Johnny Regan, the founder of the Global Vision Conference, which, by the way, is a platform I really want you to speak on. We did 2 years of Laws of Love, the globalvisionconference.com.
I
Yeah,
love it.
and Coach Michelle Schwartz, we did the Laws of Love for 2 years where we talked about relationship issues. Is monogamy realistic? So many crazy, fun issues. I love talking about dating and love. It's so much fun.
Okay, so you've opened up this door here, so I'm going to go down it because we have. It's because, listen, my wife was my second wife, and I'm her second husband. She knows everything about me, so there's nothing I'm going to share with you that she doesn't know about. Maybe the rest of the world doesn't know about it. But after I got divorced, what was it, 25 years ago, I told her when I first met her in 17, I said, there is no way I'm ever getting married again. That is never going to happen. You got the wrong guy. But we've been now been married 2.5 years, and it was the single best decision that I've ever made. There's no, hands down, there's not even a close second. So I think that's an interesting question. Is monogamy realistic? I think that for me, it is, because I love my wife dearly, and I just decided at some point I didn't want my life to go over here, which was leading to really not. You can go in one direction, right? And you can do things that give you the sort of the high that make you happy, that make you happy for a minute, but they don't give you long term happiness. Or you can say, I'm going to go this way. I feel like Shallow Hal, and to a certain, you ever see the movie Shallow Hal? To a
Of
certain extent,
course.
I was Shallow Hal for a long time. So I want to know, what was the conclusion that you came to? Is monogamy realistic?
You know what? I believe it absolutely is if someone chooses it. But I think that everybody has to be the leading lady or man of their own life, and it's not for everyone. And I think that we now live in a world of freedom, and everyone should do whatever they want as long as they're respectful and transparent. Last week, I was having lunch with someone, and I asked them, "Are you dating anyone?" And he goes, "Yes, I'm in a throuple." I said, "Wonderful. God bless you." I said, "Do your two girlfriends get jealous of each other?" He said, "No, they're happy. We're all happy. As long as everybody's happy and everyone's honest." It boils down to respect and transparency. If you say you're monogamous and then you cheat, that's a breach of integrity. That I'm not cool with. But if everyone that's in that relationship is honest about what the expectations of the relationship are, I say God bless them. I don't judge.
I love that. I love that. Okay, let's talk about your parents. I know they're both gone, and I lost my dad 9.5 years ago, and I think about him every single day. How was that for you? Because for me, it was devastating, and I don't. For me, I don't think you ever get over the death of a parent. You just get better at living with it.
My parents are really living inside of me. They really were the most incredible parents that a child could ever ask for. Like, they just gave me so much love. They told me they loved me 100 times a day. Even when I had the worst acne all over my face and braces, I was called beautiful. Okay. The confidence that these parents put inside of me, they're everything I am. So they're inside of me. And I know that they would be proud of me, of how I conduct my life. And the laws of life is in honor of their memory and everything that they've taught me. My mother being a firecracker of a woman selling real estate, $1 million real estate, and my father being the more calmer of the two. My mother was the fire and my father was the ice. My mother was unbelievably, you think I'm outgoing, my mother was unbelievably charismatic, and she spoke her mind. So I'm a combination of my parents, diplomatic, with a tinge of spice, I would say. But to answer your question, of course, it was very difficult to lose them, but I feel like I'm honoring them every single day in how I live my life. The laws of life is a dedication to them.
I love that. Okay, let's switch gears for a second, because your dad, he was somewhat of a quiet guy, and then the next thing you know, Anna Nicole Smith dies, and he's the medical examiner. What was that like? He's all of a sudden, he must have been recognized anywhere and everywhere he went.
Believe it or not, my dad was the medical examiner in Pittsburgh before he took the position on in Florida. In Pittsburgh, he was a celebrity. Wherever we went, people knew who he was. Any restaurant we went to, he was treated like a celebrity. In Florida, also very respected. But that Anna Nicole Smith case was one of the cases that definitely put his name on the map. And he would get calls from the National Enquirer offering him millions for the naked pictures of Anna Nicole Smith. And I remember I was like, Dad, are you tempted? Are you tempted to accept that? He's like, absolutely not. That there's a Hippocratic oath. I would never violate the privacy of my patient for any amount of money. They could offer me $1 trillion. My father was so honest, ethical, and noble. But he really loved what he did. He loved being a medical examiner. The press loved him. Whenever he would do interviews with the press, they would always say, "Thank you, Dr. Perper." And he always answered all their questions. He worked until his last day of being 89. He did private consultations for murder cases and coal mining deaths all around the country. He was a real example of integrity, honesty, and hard work. And he really was an amazing man. I'm really lucky that I got to be his daughter.
And it's funny because when we met, and I said, Perper, how do I know that name? And I said, I know this sounds like an odd question, but were you related to Dr. Perper, the Broward County Medical Examiner? Other people ask you that. They must do.
Once in a blue moon, like literally, there's always a connection. Like when I met Larry Seidlin, we figured out that he was the judge on the Anna Nicole Smith case. When I meet people from Pittsburgh, they remember the name Perper. One night, I went to an event, Mark. It was the craziest thing. I met 10 people from Pittsburgh, and they all knew my parents. 10 people at one party,
That
including a woman that said they said my mother sold their house to them and help them buy their next house.
And I remember hearing your dad interviewed and thinking how calm and collected he was, like level, right? He didn't get excited about the fact that it was obviously a celebrity death. He's like, I'm here to do my job, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it the same way I've done every other case.
That's right. He was also an innovator. You know, back in the day when people used to identify their loved ones in the same room, he put in a new protocol in Pittsburgh where it was done through a video camera in a private room. So they didn't have to be in the same room as the body. They did it through a closed circuit camera to help them absorb the shock of having to identify a loved one. He was really innovative. He wrote over 500 articles, books. He was also a poet. I can send you some of his poems if you want. He was a big romantic and wrote some beautiful poems. Really amazing man.
I did not know that about your dad.
That's a behind the scenes. That's a scoop. No one knows that.
That is a scoop. Wow. For be getting a call from TMZ about your dad's poems. So
I would love that. I want to publish them.
let's talk about Judge Larry because we both know Judge Larry, and he was the judge on the Anna Nicole Smith case, and I'd known him since I was about 14 years of age. And then we lost touch with him. And when I ended up going to law school, he allowed me to intern with him. And I learned some very important things from him about being a good lawyer. A couple of things he used to share with me, and I'll share these with you and see what you think. When I was prosecutor, because he'd been a prosecutor, he said, listen, you need to understand it's the state, the prosecutor, who controls the judge's docket. So you always got to do what you need to do to try and keep the judge's docket moving, because otherwise the court gets backed up and everybody looks at the point to blame of the judge. And you never want to do that, right? You want to help you got to do your job, but you want to help the court, the judge, to move things along. So just remember that, right? You can do your job, but you can also be good to the judge because the judge is just trying to do his or her job too. And I learned that from him. The other thing was, he told me, he said, never allow opposing counsel to be made a fool of in the courtroom. He said, even though you are opposing and you're on the opposite side of the courtroom, never let the other lawyer be made a fool of. That's important, right? Because at the end of the day, the case is over, and that lawyer that you just went to battle with, you might have a case to send them, or they may have a case to send you. And at the end of the day, you're both there trying to put food on the table for your families. He's opposing counsel. He's not your enemy. And I learned that
Exactly.
from him.
I love that.
And
Sounds like a great law life.
one other thing I learned from him was never allow opposing counsel to get screwed out of his fee or her fee. And when I was prosecutor, I remember once, and I was a very young prosecutor, maybe my first year at law school, and a lawyer came to me who was opposing, he was a defense lawyer, and he said, "Can I get a continuance on this case?" And I said, "What do you need a continuance for?" And he said, "I haven't been paid." I said, "No problem. I'm going to agree to it." So I said to the judge, we were in front of the court, and I said, "Your Honor, opposing counsel has asked for a continuance." And she said, "What are the grounds?" And I said, "Can we approach?" So I went to the bench, and she said, "What's going on here?" And I said, "Your Honor, I think opposing counsel is waiting for Mr. Green to make an appearance." She said, "What?" I said, "Mr. Green? Mr. Green? Oh, so is the state agreeing to this?" I said, "Yes, Your Honor. The state's agreeing to this. We're going to take a 30-day continuance so Mr. Green can show up." Because I knew that he needed to put food on the table for his family. Why put him in that position, right? I got 350 other cases I'm going to try that are coming through my filing cabinet. So his case takes another 30 days to get resolved. But meanwhile, he gets to do the right thing and put food on the table. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're there for, right? To
Right.
take care of our families. And I learned some very important lessons from Judge Larry. And I still hear from him every once in a while, right? He'll call me, "Hey, I got a case for you." And I loved it for that. He's a jovial kind of guy, but I learned some very important lessons from him as a young lawyer that to this day have stayed with me.
He is an incredible person. We speak every week. We work a lot of cases together and as a team. He's a great mentor. He always has my back, and he is a incredible person. And I'm honored to know him, really.
Yeah, just amazing. And I know the Anna Nicole Smith case obviously put him in front and center of a national audience too. But anytime I've ever mentioned that, they say, "Oh, is he really like that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's him. That was not him acting. That is who he is. Whether he's in front of a courtroom or he's on TV or he's just one on one with you, that is him. That's him."
He's the
So
best. Great
he
sense of humor.
So, a couple little things I want to ask you before I let you go. Number one, where is the craziest place you ever interviewed anybody? I wrote it down, so you're going to give me
Oh,
the.
I've got that's an easy one. I just went out on the Lear jet last Thursday. I have a new fleet of jets at my beck and call, and I've been taking some special guest of honor out on the jet to be interviewed in the sky. We call it the Laws of Life podcast in the sky experience, and people are loving it. I'm getting so many messages and DMs and people wanting to enjoy this experience. So that's been a blast.
That's pretty cool because I don't know anybody else who's doing podcasts in the sky.
It's a very special opportunity that Laws of Life has. Because if you take a Learjet from Boca Raton to Miami, it starts at $10,000 to up to 50,000 if you take a Learjet for that one leg. Whereas with the Laws of Life, you can fly for less than $3,000 and be professionally interviewed, photographed, and videoed by a professional media team. So this has definitely given us a leg up in the marketing niche, and we are very excited to take people out there on these beautiful jets. They are so beautiful, so much fun.
I love that. So, what does the future look like for you?
My dream as was to become a famous, impactful, successful talk show host that connects the world. So we are currently looking for our next investor to take Laws of Life to the next level so that we can produce more reality show series showcasing my Laws of Life lifestyle and showing people how important connection is with one another. So we're looking for funding for our reality show, for bigger studios, movies, documentaries. But at the end of the day, I'm just really hoping to have a show on national television, so to speak, even though we really do live in an OTT world, but to continue to elevate the mission of the Laws of Life and continue to grow.
I love that. I love that. So, a couple of things. If people are watching and they want to find out they're looking for a great lawyer, how do they find you?
Anyone can call me at 561-543-9040 or drop me a direct message on any of my social media channels.
Okay. And is it if they just did a quick search for Blanca Perper, they'd find you?
The best way to do it is to follow me on Instagram at Blanca Laws of Life. And if you click on my bio link on my Instagram, you'll see my phone number and all of my channels and all of the opportunities, including the podcast and the Sky experience.
Okay, and the show, when could they watch it and where do they go to do that?
They can go every Tuesday at 7 p.m. And if you go to my Instagram, you can also get the Zoom link there. So follow me on Instagram at Blanca Laws of Life, and you will then get all the details. You can join on Zoom, you can join in person. If you have questions, text me or drop me a DM anytime.
Blanca, this has been so much fun. I'm so glad I finally got you on the show. You've had an interesting life. You have an interesting life, and I know that the
It's not
future,
over yet.
you're just you're just getting warmed up. I suspect, no
Hell
question about it.
yes. We're just getting
So,
started.
so for more information about what Blanca does, the show, reach out to her. Go on her Instagram, check it out. She has the most amazing show. It's terrific. And for folks that want to find out more about what we do, our main website is mentalhealthaddictionlawfirm.com. That's mentalhealthaddictionlawfirm.com. And until the next time, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you in our next show.